Hi. Does risk conflict, rise to the level of being worthy of risk analysis? I tell you why I ask. I had an exchange with a risk manager who thought that my post on mitigating conflict did not was not relevant for risk managers. So my question is, does conflict rise to the level of being worthy of risk analysis? I tell you why. There's a study which I'll share in this brief live class that indicates that managers spent as much as 18%, and this is some time ago, so I think it's going to be higher, 18% of their time dealing with conflict. What that means in a regular 5-day week, that virtually almost one whole day of the week is dedicated to conflict. Think about that. Would you say that if your management team has to write off a full day per week to deal with conflict, that this is a risk to the organization, to productivity, to performance? That's a question that I have to address in the next 30 minutes with some solutions. Hi, again, I'm Trevor E.S. Smith. I'm with the Success with People Academy, and I will be your host in this live cast as I examine how DISCerning communication can address this loss of a day to conflict. Now, your situation might be different. I am not sure what percentage of your time or your manager's time goes into dealing with conflict, but I'm sure that there is some time that's spent there. My role is to show you a way that you can reduce the level of conflict that you have to deal with. And so my strategy is not to look to resolve conflict, but to provide a way forward where we can actually prevent, anticipate, and prevent conflict. So let's go. So the basic agenda, as I say, we try to get out of here in about 30 minutes or so. So I'm going to provide some context. I started to do that. I'm going to give you an alternative perspective on conflict management. I want to show you, for example, a practical case of how a misunderstanding of dominant behavioral styles, how that can invite conflict. I want to further that by looking at a specific example where there is an interaction between the D style and the S style. And then what happens when we plug DISCerning communication into that situation? I also want to look at a case where we look at the I style. And then we want to look at the C style and talk about team harmony and productivity. So that's where we want to go. So the context is, are you tired of dealing with conflicts that just disrupt either your relationship or your productivity? Oh man, I have to go back through this. This is a waste of my time. You come back to work, you're thinking about it, but then you're distracted. You want to go forward, you're writing an email, the issue comes back up, your productivity goes down. So that's something that we have to look at. Is that necessary? Can that be reduced? Yeah. So what if instead of having these hanging things that distract and interrupt good, healthy relationships, we could actually proactively prevent conflicts and build better connections? Is that something of interest? So here's the study. AccountTemps had a study in 2011 where they found that managers spend as much as 18% of their time resolving conflict. There's another study that indicated that 25% of managers, respondents, it wasn't just managers, respondents indicated that they missed work because of conflict. In other words, I'm not going to work today because of some problem that I have with somebody. Loss of productivity, a day lost to the managers to just deal with conflict, people staying at home because they can't go back to face another challenge. So, great. A lot of organizations spend a ton of money on conflict resolution. Conflict resolution. And I think it's important. But what if we could go beyond the resolution and look to prevention? Conflict prevention. I don't know. I'm not seeing any courses or any interventions in this area. So maybe I need to put up a shingle. But the whole point is this, that there is a way to actually anticipate and prevent conflicts from happening. Stick around. I'll show you. So if you are curious to learn how understanding behavioral styles and how our DISCerning communication model can anticipate and address conflicts, give me a few more minutes. All right. So here's the alternative perspective on conflict. So actually, I must be perfectly honest with you. I have been, I went and looked at our manual on DISCerning conflict management. And there's this text, this line that it says there, that conflict is not always inevitable. Truth be told, I actually put in not always. So what, is not always. The manual actually had conflict is inevitable because that's what we say. We believe that conflict is inevitable. And yes, to be truthful, basically, my definition of conflict is that whenever there is a need that's not being met, then conflict arises. And as we know, conflict can be internal, it can be suppressed, all of those kind of things. So in effect, both are true. Some conflict is inevitable, but for the purposes of what we're talking about today, I want to also say to people, do not say that it is inevitable and that, okay, that's how life is, that we must have these frictions. Doesn't have to be. Some of them can be anticipated and some of them can be prevented. And so what we have found is that when we use the DISCerning model of communication, we realize that a lot of conflicts really are just miscommunication between behaviors, people speaking different behavioral language, a clash of behavioral styles. As you know, or hopefully, if you're meeting us for the first time, we have looked at the DISC model, and we have developed a whole framework around it, right? And, under the DISCerning, spelled with the DISC, DISCerning communication model. We have DISCerning leadership, DISCerning negotiation. So we actually have a lot of content that we have developed using the basic Jungian DISC model. All right. So that's what we talk about. And of course, just in case you're coming in for the first time, we have the 4 basic quadrants. What Jung said is that if you look at how people navigate through life, you could classify their behavior. So we're not classifying people, we're classifying an approach. I like to call it 4 toolkits. We have 4 toolkits to navigate, to manage how things unfold in our lives and how we manage them. And the 4 toolkits are dominance, the red zone that you see here, more direct, driven, outgoing. Inducement, this is what Jung used. Nowadays, people call it influence. That's the yellow zone, which is more outgoing and people-oriented. Steadiness, which is the green zone, which is more people-oriented and reserved, more indirect, politically correct. And then in the blue zone, that's conscientiousness. That's more reserved and task-oriented, more compliance, structure, systems, etc. That's what resides here. So nowadays, we just call them the DISC, D for dominance, I for influence or inducement, S for steadiness, and C for conscientiousness. All right. So hopefully everybody's on board now. So let us look at dominance, driven, direct, outgoing. All right. So some of the key characteristics of dominance would be direct, decisive, independent. Yes. So those are three characteristics. Now, in my experience, and I've been doing this for a couple of decades, I experienced individuals who internalize these descriptions differently. In other words have different meaning to different individuals. And so when we speak about direct, there are a solid body of individuals with a mindset that says, based on my experience dealing with this kind of person, direct means blunt, undiplomatic, and insensitive. That's it, my boss. I've worked with 3 bosses, one of them are like that. And this is my cousin, and this is my whoever. So that's a body of individuals who understand direct as being blunt, undiplomatic, and insensitive. They see decisive and they understand it to be rash. Yes, they don't think, they don't listen, they just gone, pat themselves on the back. Okay, I can make quick decisions. Stubborn, don't listen. Impatient. Why didn't you wait until we checked it out properly? That's a body, a solid body. I'm telling you, when I work with teams, there's strong resistance to individuals who have a preference for using the dominance toolkit. So independent, yeah, selfish. They only think about what is in it for them. They're not team players. That's their. If it's not happening in your team, maybe you are special, but that's an approach that is out there. All right, so let's move it forward. So that's basically then what we have to contend with. So from you present and and appear to be in the dominance toolkit, that's your preference. You're going to meet these. So conflict is there already in the mindset. Practical example. So we're going to use Dinah, D, as the dominant individual in this scenario, and we're going to use Susan as a steadiness practitioner. All right. So Johnny, separate person now, is a colleague. Johnny has a problem with body odor. Dinah's approach is to place her arm around Johnny and say, Johnny, listen to me. You have this issue. Here is a solution. You can use this deodorant and you can get it fixed. All right? Take care, brother. Done. Susan, on the other hand, reflects on how to get the message across to Johnny without hurting his feelings. Finally, she comes up with some really diplomatic, subtle approach to give Johnny a hint. So, this scenario, because of the different perspectives, there is a conflict is being boiling, the potential for conflict. So, Susan is thinking, man, Dinah, no, you really couldn't talk to Johnny like that. That's so insensitive. Man, it will hurt his feelings. Dinah is thinking, Susan, I'm telling the truth. You see your approach? You take forever and then you come up with this diplomacy. And guess what? Johnny might not even get the message. And next week he's coming back with the same problem. With me, I'm clear. I tell him what to do and solve the problem. Can you see how this example where different mindset, different approaches could actually lead to a problem? And here is Dinah labeling Susan labeling Dinah as being insensitive. Being insensitive is not a nice thing. But look at this now. When we introduce DISCerning communication into the mix, what happens then? We ask them to reflect. All right? So maybe these are not personal flaws. Maybe this is just a difference in approach. So you need not label Dinah as insensitive, Susan. Let me tell you why. Because how Dinah looked at the situation is maybe she's coming from a position of decisiveness. The D style wants to solve the problem and solve it now, not tomorrow, not yet, When do we want it? Yesterday. Okay. So she is very goal oriented. She wants Johnny to resolve the issue quickly. This is not healthy for Johnny. This is not good for Johnny. So what is it? Go quickly solve the problem. So maybe, Susan, Dinah should actually be seen as being caring. because she wants Johnny to get rid of the problem. And she's providing Johnny with solutions right now, right here. Take action, Johnny. Susan, can you buy that? Can you see why Dinah would act in this way? Can you understand it from a different perspective? That maybe she was not being insensitive, but really more caring? Susie? So when we open our minds to the possibility that there may be justifiable alternative points of view, we are more likely to understand. Yeah. Instead of labeling, to say, okay, I understand. We have a difference here in approach. Yes, all right, fine. I hear you. I understand now why Diana would behave like that. But personally, I don't want to behave like that. I would still prefer to go my diplomatic model and take the chance that maybe Johnny doesn't get it, but at least I won't hurt his feeling. So yes, but we cannot disagree on that. But it's not personal. I'm not insensitive. Yes? So that might then prevent some of these issues from getting into full-blown conflict or resentment. I hope that this is landing somewhere. I have a colleague on. If this makes any sense for you, you can actually type in the chat. You can't talk to me, but definitely you can send a message to say, go on, Trevor. This kind of makes sense. Or no, stop it. All right. So please, a little encouragement, sweeten flavor. So yeah, so that's where I want to go. I want to look at some more though. So what are some adjustments? Because we like to be practical in these live class. They're short, just 30 minutes or so, but yet still we try to pack it with action that you can take to make a difference. So one of the things that we would suggest is, I hear you, Dinah, but sometimes you could be a little bit more sensitive to people's feelings. Yes? So pay a little bit more attention. Yes, I know what you think. I know you think that they're too thin-skinned and people should just learn to be adults. And I understand all of that. But sometimes it makes sense to just easy. Yes, take on a little bit of the S-style diplomacy. Yeah? And so you're going to get better results that way. As they say, you catch more flies with honey than with a sledgehammer. So just take them easy. All right. So the other thing is, be conscious of the potential negative impact of your tone. I know you like to be assertive and you speak with confidence, but sometimes the body language come across as being a little pushy and a little too dominant, and people back away from it. So watch that as well, how you communicate, because that can actually, just by your body language, you could actually cause people to back away and to have some art against you, or to reject what it is that you are saying. Cool down, easy. And also, be a little bit more patient. I know you have ideas and you think fast on your feet, but sometimes people just want you to listen. They don't want an answer. They just want to say to you, I have this problem. And they just want you to listen and to say, oh, okay, I understand. But really listen. Don't be thinking about, oh, I would solve it like that. Why don't just do this? Try and be in the moment. Try and see if you can embrace what it is that they're saying, and just let them be your focus. Nothing else. You're not solving anything. You're not doing anything. You're not looking at your watch. You're not trying to. You're just focusing on the individual. You're going to win a lot more friends. You're going to build a lot more trust if you are able to just focus. Just let the person know that you're all I care about at this point in time. Okay? All right? Don't throw any stones, please. All right. What about the S-style? I think, Susie, and those of you who think like Susie, you must be more willing to act decisively at some point in time, even if it makes you vulnerable. Yes, I say that, even if you might ruffle some feathers a little bit, it can always be wait and see if I can get a message across in some kind of highly subtle ways. Sometimes you need to just call a spade a spade. That is required. Definitely. Okay. All right. So that's going to the second one, which is be more assertive, less self-effacing. Don't feel as if, I have an important question. I have an important contribution to make to this meeting. But maybe it's not so smart. Maybe others have the same idea. Let them talk. No, man. Step forward. Come on. Clean your space. Make a difference. Step up. Be confident. Be assertive. Be less submissive. That's something that's going to make a difference in your life and in the life of people that you serve. So understand that sometimes by being frank and direct, you actually are helping the individual. So if you were to be able to get the message clearly across to Johnny, you're helping him, right? You're not hurting his feeling. You're saying, Johnny, this is the issue that you need to solve, and we're going to solve it. Yeah? Okay, let's move forward. So let us look at the I case. Anybody has any quick comments? My colleague will look at the chat, but let's go. So the I style. When we look at the DISC framework, or discerning, communication driven, the direct, dominant, inducement, influence, steadiness, conscientiousness. The influence style, this connection, a lot of it is about success with and through people. So a core characteristic then of the I style is the desire to connect, to make a difference, to bond more closely by being of service. So one of the things that happens though is that in our experience, a couple of decades that I've been doing this, the I style and the D style are the ones that cause most conflict in organization. And the difference with the I style is that some of it is a love-hating. Oh boy, I love you so much, but I want to strangle you and at the same time come and hug you. That's basically what it is, because the key here is the reliability thing. Is that, but you said you would. You hear this every day. But you promised. I thought you were going to. So here's a radically different perspective that might save you from pulling out your hair if you have an I-style colleague in your team or in your life. So our discerning communication model tells us that a feature of the I-style behavior is the desire to develop strong interpersonal connections, right? That's where we are. We really want to pursue success with and through people. Our success, their success, let's go. We can work together. So given this need to embrace connections and enhance connections, there's a tendency to say yes readily. When you ask me, why would I not? You ask me, Trevor, can you do this? Of course, why not? I want to be helpful. I want to be of service. The problem, though, is that when Ivan, as we will use an example here, says, sure, Ivan, can you do this? Of course. What is Ivan's reality? Ivan has a full-time job, as you know. He's president of the Citizens Association. He's vice president of some service club. He's doing some evening club. I mean, honestly, where would Ivan ever find the time to do what you're asking him to do? But of course, Ivan wants to be of service. Why would Ivan tell somebody who they care about? No. So that's where the problem is, the tendency to overcommit. And if we understand this, we can avoid a lot of conflicts, a lot of that here pulling out, a lot of that frustration and annoyance. I'll show you how. But before I do that, normally in our workshops and so on, we have fun anecdotes, what I call anecdotes, but fun ones. And one of the things that we talk about is that when you say to Ivan, can you do this? And Ivan says, sure, consider it done. Immediately, Ivan files that as having been done. Yeah. So I consider it done. All right, fine. I may not get it, but the whole idea is that commitment, saying that, yeah, you can consider it done, also means that in my mind, I've considered it done. Leave it alone. All right. So let's apply discerning communication to the issue. Here are some steps. Key. Take care to make sure that when Ivan tells you yes, you have to ask, is this a yes, meaning, yes, of course, I want to help. I would love to do it for you. Is it that, or is it a genuine commitment to completing the task? You have to ensure that Ivan gets a chance to give his yes some thought. Is this off the cuff? Of course, why not? So you also want to go the next step and say, all right, so Ivan, you're going to do this. How, when, whatever. So we want to talk about how he's going to go about it, where he's going to find the time, etc. So we can know whether this is a, I would like to help you, definitely, or yeah, you can rely on this happening. Help Ivan as well, please. So establish some deadlines and milestones and track it and so on. Put reminders in place. What I'm suggesting to you is that you take responsibility for supporting the process of completion. Don't just sit back and wait to correlate, Ivan. Get into the process and find out where are we now. Follow up. It's just like a manager. You have give me a project, a long-term project, and you wait until the last day with the deadline and then want to fire me? No, man, you should lose your job, because I'm suggesting to you that as a responsible manager, you should be following up with me. Where are we on this now, Trevor? Where are we on this? That's how I'm going to say that we can reduce a lot of this conflict and frustration, is by understanding the behavioral preferences and working with them. So with the iStyle, you're going to follow up. You're going to have regular meetings. It doesn't have to be formal, long reports. Just call me in, sit down with me and say, hey, Trevor, where are we on this now? All right, can I help you with anything? All right, sure. Let me see what's happening. That's the way that we can avoid a lot of conflict and a lot of problems as it relates to the iStyle behavior that is constantly before me when I work with teams. All right. And here's a little sweet now. Make sure that you let Ivan, because Ivan also wants to connect, wants to be respected. Let him know the reason why he has this important task. It's because he's a natural man. He's the man that we expect that will deliver. So Ivan, you are special. And you, because of your special characteristics, you have this wonderful task of doing this for us. DISCerning communication makes a difference, friends. All right. What about iStyle? C-style. Wow. Speed up if I get out here in a half an hour. So the C-style challenges usually relates to timing. Yes. How you speed up decision making and the need for more information. That's where the frustration always comes in, because the C-style wants evidence, wants a lot of data, wants to make sure that we look at all the possibilities and look at the pros and cons of each possibility. And the D-style is saying, I can't wait, I can't wait, can't wait, can't wait. And so that's where the problem is. In our workshop, we talk about the D-style sent to their C-style colleagues, hey, you have a ladder to go in your bed, because everything I ask you to do, you say I have to sleep on it. So those are some of the things, that's where the conflict comes in. Here is a solution. I'm just suggesting to the D-style, hey, understand your colleague. Understand that they don't want to go with the gut feeling that you use. They want to actually have time. So start a little earlier on and build that in. Set deadlines that allow for the fact finding. Why as a matter of fact, why don't you get involved with some of the fact finding? Information can't hurt, evidence can't hurt, so it must be useful. Get involved. And also, whenever you're communicating with your colleague, just include a lot of data and let them know this is the evidence, this is where this is, these are what, the information, the data that connects the dots for them. Please. All right. So those are some adjustments for your C-style. Please, my colleagues, my C-style colleagues, I know information is important, but guess what? Sometimes there's a concept called first mover advantage, where we're just by being out there first, might not be perfect, might not have done all of the research, but I'm there first, it makes a difference. If you have an understanding that sometimes speed trumps accuracy, makes sense. Yes. So that's where I want to suggest to you that start to take that into consideration. When your D-style colleague is saying, hey, come on, let's make a decision. We need to get out there. Understand where it's coming from. That's all I'm saying. And then also, for your development, here's what I'm suggesting that you do. Track it. Okay? So you're called to make a decision. You don't have all the data now. Write down what you would have decided given what you have available. Then, of course, you go do research. And over time, find out if there is an alignment between the decisions that you made with inadequate data as against the decision that you made when you had full data. And you might find that your strike rate is not bad in terms of coming up with good, solid decisions with less than fulsome information. And of course, start early as well. No matter wait to hold up the project. See if you can get ahead of the game with your data collection. All right. Time. All right. So the last thing I want to suggest to you is that in every employee satisfaction survey, communication is identified as an area for development. People complain about that every time. And I'm saying to you, I have no reservation in saying to you that communication and interpersonal relationships are dramatically improved when people do behavioral assessments and where they understand the behavioral preferences of their colleagues. Just as we show you some examples here, Susan and Dinah, how we can work with Ivan. Those are clear. So a single session driven by behavioral DNA diagnostics can dramatically change the whole communication landscape of your team and of your organization. So I'm happy to have a conversation. Yeah, no commitment, seriously. Just pop me an email or click on that HubSpot meeting and just let's talk. I just want to talk to you about how conflict prevention can be supported by behavioral DNA assessments and a communication around it. Yeah. So the team maps, I tell you, when I work with some of the teams, sometimes when I put up the map of the team, sometimes I just go to the back of the room and have them diagnose themselves as, that is why. Now I understand, So I'm just saying to you that this brings a completely different understanding to the team dynamics and how they function. Well, let's talk. I'm not trying to sell you anything here. I'm just saying to you, let's talk if you want. No holds barred. No commitments. So you can give me send me an email at info@successwithpeople.org. info@successwithpeople.org. Or as I say to you, go to meetings-hubspot.com/Trevor-Smith4. So again, meetings.hubspot.com/Trevor-Smith4. Let's go. Or even better yet, I have my WhatsApp number, 876-535-6677. Just give me a call and let's talk. Thanks for your time and may God bless you.